Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the Vitamin C's podcast, proud part of the CLNS Media Network. I am your host, Tim Sheils, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, Wayne Breezie Brown. Sorry we've been away for a little bit, had some scheduling issues, then obviously game time. You don't want to record on a game, and then you have your heart broken in the first three, so it makes it hard to record the day after. But here we are. We were going to be here better or worse, but we are here for the better. Celtics pulled out a tough, gutsy 116-99 win in Game 4 over the Miami Heat to keep their season alive. The season now is 3-1 on this series, and every single game from here on out is going to be do or die. But before we get too much into that, how are we hanging, Wayne? What's going on?
I mean, we're here. And we get to live to fight another day. And that's the best way I'm going to look at it. The only way to really look at it. A lot of stuff we can talk about to recap the game, the good, the bad, the ugly. I know we won, so let's celebrate the win. And then let's talk about how we could continue to win. It's there. And it always has been. It's just weird to, for the results to be what they are.
Yeah, and I think overall going into this series, we knew it was going to be tough, and it felt like with both game 1 and 2 that they were just so close, and then game 3 was such a letdown, and 26. It felt like, I mean, just awful, right? Like it was just, that's one of those losses that could break a team. And I think a lot of people expected that. You had guys like Kevin O'Connor coming out with unsubstantiated reports of these guys just hate each other. I've got a source telling me that these guys they just despise each other. And it's like, really, everyone was just clamoring, just smacking their gums, waiting for the chance to tear this team apart. And I'm so happy that they came out and answered in game 4. And a lot of it actually came down to playing with energy, playing with pace, attacking defensively. And I do want to say this as well. Grant Williams gets like damn near 30 minutes and is huge in this game. Massive.
We've only been asking for Grant. We didn't want Grant Williams to just play. We've been asking Joe to let Grant Williams play. Big difference.
Capital P
Big
on
difference.
That.
Capital P with a couple of extra A's in there, and let him play. Why? Because he spaces the floor. So at the end of the day, he's going to have wide open shots. And shout out to Grant Williams for taking the majority of them when he was wide open. Top of the key three, splash. Corners, splash. There was one where he pump faked, and I wanted to smack him back into reality, and he took it in for a layup and miss. But, hey, you know you're going to get that with Grant. That's who Grant is, because before Grant even played in that game, I was like, Grant, please don't do that. Just shoot. If you miss, cool, we'll get the rebound. We were offensive rebounding like crazy in that game. So Grant was the unsung hero to me last night. But let's talk about Al Horford, who finally started to come through. And I think he's been a key piece missing. You're not getting his offensive production. I didn't understand why. I mean, you're not getting it much from the Celtic players anyway, Tim. Like, we just couldn't hit shots. Even in that game, we were struggling in the first half. So it had to be night and day shooting in the first half to shooting in the second half. And so, I don't know why the shots just don't want to fall. We're getting wide open looks and we're missing. And I don't think anything irks me more than, turnovers irk me more than missing wide open shots. But I can get over the turnovers if we hit wide open shots.
I think that's a given, right? And I think the big thing for them was getting out and running in transition. That came off of their defense. 10 turnovers to Miami's 15. Celtics had 8 steals and 8 blocks. Active on the defensive end. They weren't slacking off. They had some spots where they were letting up some open threes. I don't have the shot dashboard up where I tell you how many were open or wide open. And if I want to, I mean, if you want me to, I can pull those up too for reference. But overall, they looked really, really active. And I think that's really what was helping with them. You talk about open shots, right? And you talk about these open threes that they were getting. So many of them came off of forcing a turnover or getting out and running. And they were finding guys, they were finding threes. Jason Tatum, most notably towards the beginning of the game, was really trying to get Al Horford going. He found Al Horford a lot. And I think that sort of helps, spread the floor, but set the tone. Because those guys, between Brown, Horford, and Tatum, those seem to be the 3 guys that you need to get going for sure in order to really get this, humming and running. I was like, is it coming? The ding ding. And so Al, especially, 3 of 6 from three, 4 of 7 from the field, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block, a plus 23 in this win, just 12 points, 25 minutes. And they were finding ways to keep him included. And I think overall, I think that comes down to that connectivity, right? There was some serious issues when they were talking about, staying on the same page and communicating, but it felt like that wasn't an issue, at least not consistently throughout this game. And I think the third quarter run especially really put like an exclamation point on that.
I just want to go through the start, which I thought was hot, and then the moment we got our first turnover, it kind of alluded to Miami getting a spark, and then kind of Miami ran with it for a little bit. But I do want to extend my shout outs to the Celtics for not like buckling and not like just folding, because they continued to fight. If you think about it, they ended the first quarter down 6. They ended the second quarter down 6, if I'm not mistaken. I know they were down 6 a couple of times.
56-50, I think, was the halftime score. If I remember
So
correctly.
they kept it close, and you can't sit there and attest to how poorly Miami was doing, because I don't give what anybody says. They were able to score at will, and to me, that is one of the things we have to figure out, because how is Gabe and how are they getting to the bucket untouched? Now, I know Horford had 2 early fouls. He had to come out of the game early. I know that's some of your rim protection, but the energy just seemed a lot better when Rob Williams is out there, where they're kind of protecting the rim. But still, like, those guards are just beating our guys off the blocks, bro. And that's an issue, because whenever Boston gets a little bit of favor going their way, right? Like, they get a little momentum going. Miami just negates it with a basket at the freaking rim. It's not even a 3. Shoot, hell, let him hit force him to shoot the 3. Not a wide open one, but force him to shoot. I'd rather them make Jimmy Butler shoot more than watch him dribble, stop, fade away, hit the shot. Because he gets to his spot every single time.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy's going to get those shots, right? You're going to give him those mid-range shots, and you try and defend him as much as you can. There's a couple that you're still in his face, right? They had the defender there. Derek White's gone against him a lot. Malcolm Brogdon's gone against him a lot. The issue with having Rob out there sometimes is they'll do a pick and roll, and they'll force a switch where you get Jimmy going with the head of steam going towards the rim. You don't want Rob to foul. And, Jimmy does a really good job of keeping the defender like on his hip and then finishing through. So you're in an impossible situation as the defender, where like you can try and block, but he's probably going to get the foul because he's got you on his hip. So he and that comes with that savviness that Jimmy's got. Jimmy's a very, very good player at drawing contact and getting to the line. And it looked like Miami had zero issue with that. Jimmy was 10 to 12 from the line, 23 to 28 for the game, 24 to 18 personal foul ratio. So the Celtics were called for 6 more fouls. And it is what it is. Eric Spoelstra joked about it after the game. He was like, they probably won the free throw battle. It's like, dude, you know that you won the free throw battle with
They're
going to
win a free throw battle every night, yo.
And that's where it comes down to the 3-pointers, right? And I think overall, the Celtics did a really good job of defending the 3-point line. And I think that's something that we've been, shouting from the rooftops for a long, long time now. I mean, Max Strus, 1 of 5. Gabe Vincent, 1 of 4. Kyle Lowry, 1 of 5. Caleb Martin, 2 of 5. Duncan Robinson, 0 of 4. So they really pushed them off of that 3-point line big time. Overall, 8 of 32 on the night, 25% from 3. If you can replicate that, and then on the same side of that coin, or the other side of that coin rather, hit your threes, it's a completely different ball game. Celtics go 40%, 45 attempts, 18 makes, and
That's the number.
And it still felt like there was like an opportunity to make more there. There was a couple that just didn't fall. Mm-hmm. But if you can, this is a building block game, in my opinion. I think there's a chance right here to really make a statement. You come back, you take game 5, you go back into Miami. Like, game 6 is going to be the toughest game of this series. Celtics got to take care of home court. That's really what it is. And it's evaded them.
And you said something that really struck my attention, right? And so, like, watching this game, I didn't even feel like being down 0-3. I didn't feel like we came out scrapping. Like, I didn't think we were going to claw our way. No, we kind of like stayed our course. waited for certain things to happen. The defensive intensity ramped up in that fourth quarter. You saw numerous turnovers. They were trying to force the ball, and the Celtics played lanes. And that is the basketball that I miss from the Boston Celtics, because now you're creating buckets in transition. You're getting out there. A couple of passes I thought Jaylen Brown could have passed. It was like 2-on-1, but I know he's not. So I know he's not going to, but I just thought there were a couple that he could have just, first one he made, the second one he got fouled, and I think he went 1 for 2 at the free throw line. But anyway, all I'm saying is create those buckets in transition. Not only are you giving yourself momentum, you're getting points, and then you find ways to chip. Here's the only issue, and I know it has to happen, but does it really have to happen? It's not a rhetorical question. You cannot sit Jason Tatum in the fourth quarter. You can't, Tim. You cannot sit him in the fourth quarter. We were
because the
up
offense dies, right?
It straight up, and this is not a shot at Jaylen Brown or the rest of the offense. This is how the Miami Heat defense kind of like zero ends on everybody else. Because when Tatum's out there, he's automatically drawing that double team. And when they switch to a zone, that 2-3, god dang it, I hate it. That 2-3 zone, them guards were playing extra high, and it was forcing the Celtics to shoot weird-ass shots. Like, move the ball a couple more times. You still got time on the shot clock. Get the better percentage shot. And that is how they got back in the game, because we were up by 9-10, and then we started missing because of that zone. Tatum was out.
They slowed it down. They slowed it down, and they were settling, right? Like they were settling for threes.
Dude, keep the foot on the gas. Attack. That's it. Like, okay. Musa, that has to be the mindset of the Boston Celtics. You can start the game at a certain pace. I'm okay with that, Tim. Mm-hmm. But at halftime, you have to make that adjustment. And you got to figure out, and I'm going to give the round of applause to Mazzulla for making a couple of adjustments, okay? A couple of noticeable ones, in my opinion. The timeout when Jaylen Brown was about to be double-teamed, and I was like, oh, he about to turn this shit over. Like, no, he wasn't. No, he was not, because Mazzulla, and we got a 3 out of that afterwards, after the timeout. That was smart. That let me know that Mazzulla is starting to see the game a little bit differently. And he hears us talking. He hears the adjustment. That A word is like a bad word to him, and he hears it. And then he made the quick adjustment on putting Jason Tatum back in the game. So they went on they scored 5. They cut the lead to 5, and Tatum was right back in. And the moment Tatum came in, he got to the midi and popped that 2-point. And usually you use the big man that can shoot to do that, but Tatum got to the middle, hit that mid-range, broke that zone down. I don't think you saw the zone again. Like, after that, Celtics were off to running. And so you can't sit Tatum in the fourth quarter, bro. You just can't. I know you have to, but you can't.
I think it's got to be like marginal, right? Like, you have to figure out exactly when you got to take like small breaks, but it can't be. I think you probably take them out at the like end of the third if you're in a good spot, and then at the beginning of the fourth, you keep them out. You don't put them immediately out there, and probably maybe a minute into the quarter,
that's
it.
Put
them in. That might be what they have to do. I don't know. I don't know exactly how I'd have to pull up the game charts, and I might as well pull that up now.
You might as well get it up, bro.
I might as well get it up. I'll pull a popcorn machine for that.
Yeah, because here's the thing, right? Like, I don't understand how the offense goes stagnant, but it makes sense. Tatum creates his own shots. And so not only does he create his own shots, he also has that vision to make a play. And so everybody else is stagnant. So everybody else is kind of like standing around. And nobody wants Jaylen Brown to do that, because he's not a terrible shot creator, but he's trying to put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. And unfortunately, they know that. And then there's 3 people in there, and it's either going to be a charge, a turnover, or a nothing. And so, like, that's Jaylen Brown. Then
he's got to pick his moments.
He's got to pick his moments. And
he was
Malcolm
2 of 5 from the line, by the way. He needs to hit those free throws.
I'm not going to say this as an excuse, but something ain't right with the elbow.
Yep. Yeah, they were talking about that on the broadcast too. And so for your information, Jason Tatum did not start the fourth quarter. He came in at the 9:40 mark. And the lineup that they had, to be fair, he played the entire third quarter by the looks of it.
He had to, though. We were down. That's our point.
Well, yeah,
He had
he
a
played
good third quarter,
a
though.
whole second and a whole third. So at the first quarter, he comes out around the 2:28 mark, and then for the fourth quarter, he ended up playing until the minute 6 mark when they had a healthy lead and they just emptied the bench. But yeah, he didn't come in until the 9:40 mark. But that lineup that they had to start that quarter was Grant, Horford, Derek, Brogdon, and Brown. I'm going to say this now, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, but I think that this is a very different series if Malcolm Brogdon can get his collective crap together. I don't know what it is. Is he forcing his shots? There's been times where I've seen him go up and it looks like he's forcing it. He wants to hit those threes or wants to get to the bucket and drive. And I think they got to find ways for him to, find him on cuts, find him on screens, something, anything,
You're making so many great points, and it doesn't just evolve around Malcolm Brogdon. But since we're talking about Malcolm Brogdon, this has to be his segment because he is the sixth man of the year for a reason, okay? And he's getting out sixth manned, and I don't understand it. They're beating him off the cuff, off the block. They're getting around him. They're getting easy buckets. He's missing easy buckets. How many layups did Malcolm Brogdon miss? And so then when he goes and he comes out there and he shoots an extra long three. I mean, if it goes in, kudos, but
super early in the shot clock. I know
so
exactly which one you're talking about. Early in the shot clock.
Yeah. Malcolm, come on, Malcolm. It's so early. How about move the ball a couple of times and then you catch? I don't know. I get flashes of people don't like him, but he's one of my favorite people that I've met in my life. I get Ray Allen vibes. Can we set some screens and he just shoot the damn ball off the screen? Why are we the only team that gets screened and they shoot? Why can't we do that? And I'm not just talking Jason Tatum, because, again, Tatum will create his own shot. If that screen suck, okay, cool, my dribble, step back, splash. But why can't we set some screens for him to get better looks? He is a shooter. He can shoot. But for some reason, he's forcing the three, opposed to getting the better look. Whenever Gabe Vincent, or whatever his damn name is, takes a shot,
Gabe.
It's off of a screen. Did you guys not notice that we're getting screen off the top? He's shooting over on top of that screen. And I know they didn't shoot well, but the ones that went in, that's how it looked. They tried it with Duncan Robinson. He was terrible, thank God. Right? He finally came back to earth. Right, that's what I'm saying. He came back to earth. And so, like you said, we played better three-point defense, but then we gave up the interior defense and gave up a bunch of twos, which is good. I'd rather give up the twos than the threes. Can you imagine if they weren't just – it's like we score, oh, snap, we hit a three, they hit a two. How about they don't hit shit and we get the ball back?
You know what? I actually prefer to play basketball that way as well, where I hit threes and then the opponent just can't hit a goddamn thing. That's much more fun basketball.
But it's not like they were hitting though, Tim. They were just going right around. You're giving me this layup. I'm going to reverse it in. I was just like, what is going on? Do we not know how to protect the rim again? Are we scared to foul? They were getting hella foul calls.
They got a lot of dumb whistles. There was a couple that really pissed me off. There was one where Caleb Martin clearly didn't have his feet set when Tatum spun into him. They called the charge at Tatum, and then the next play, literally the next play,
Grant Williams got punched in the mouth.
Well, no. Yes, that one should have been a flagrant one on Kyle Lowry, but no, it was the one where I think it was also Caleb Martin. So Martin got that stupid charge call. And then I want to say it was him. If it wasn't him, it was Gabe Vincent, who literally just drove directly into Grant and just fell down. And then they called Grant for the foul. I'm pretty sure. If it wasn't Grant, it was Tatum. But it was one of those plays where it's like, are we seriously doing this? We're gonna call that, but then we just inconsistent.
The funny thing is, we win when Scott Foster's out there. But damn, does he make it interesting? Does he make it interesting? I mean, Tatum had to go for 33. I thought it should have been 34, but 33. And I'm just saying, he just made it extra interesting. And it didn't have to be that. Here's what I would like, because, like I said, they did the thing, they adjusted, and Tatum played that fourth quarter. And for the first time in this series, he scored. And so, at this point, I'm like, look, we got to figure out how to make sure Tatum get the ball. Let Jaylen Brown, who to me was the best playmaker out there on the court last night, but let him go out there and play basketball for 3 quarters and then find a way to take the ball out of his hand and give it to Tatum. Tatum is going to draw the doubles. And the reason why I wanted to make mention of this, there were numerous amounts of times that I watched our players stand there.
Yep.
Jaylen Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, like nobody's cutting. How about you just cut to the basket? It's just it's basketball 101. And we overcomplicate things. Why, I don't know. That's the unsolved mystery of the Boston Celtics. They overcomplicate it. That's why on many of our episodes out there, we say we beat ourselves. It's stupid stuff like that. And you can have easy 2 points, at least better looks at the basket, and we kind of mess up because players want to stay stagnant. And if Jaylen Brown, I'm not getting on him, but like, does he not have the IQ to cut to the rim? Like, what is going on here?
So for Jalen especially, I think it's just a matter of staying like involved and invested. I think there were a couple times where overall like the defense is tough for Miami. Miami is a very tough team. And when it comes to that zone defense, they really have some real estate in the Celtics' heads. And it seems like the Celtics sort of had a breakthrough with this game in particular, and it was because of the way that they were starting to move. You could literally see it was like polar opposites, like you said, where there were possessions where the Celtics just weren't moving at all. There was no ball movement. They were coming up. They were maybe 1-2 passes around the perimeter and settling for a contested 3 versus the ones where, you know, Al Horford gets in the low block and posts up Zeller and like gets an easy bucket, you know, pump fakes, gets another extra defender to jump over and he just gets a little putback, or ones where they start to work the game inside out, you know, pass, you got draw 2 as you cut, find a guy on the perimeter, they compensate, pass another one over, swing the ball over, find a guy open for a 3. Like, they're starting to do things like that, and that's really where they're going to benefit the most. Because as good as Miami is, it's still really, really important to remember this was an 8 seed. They might have been a 1st seed last year. They were an 8 seed this year, and they were
playing like a 1st seed though.
Yeah, well, again, it's the coaching factor. This is where the players have to go out and they have to execute to a T. And I don't know if I don't think this is entirely on Joe.
No.
And from the way that the players talked and the way that Joe talked, you know, Joe took full ownership. But then you saw the players answering this, and Joe gave them a moment where, hey, Jaylen Brown had almost a turnover in that 4th quarter. He knew when to call that timeout. So Joe's getting better at reading the situations, but ultimately it comes down to the players to go out there and execute it. If they start going ahead and freelancing on offense, that's what ends up hurting them, right? Is like they start to call their own shot. You saw that with Brogdon. You saw that with Jaylen Brown. Sometimes you see that with Tatum too. So it's moving the ball around and finding your open guys. It's making a difference. And honestly, things become easier on offense when you bring it on defense. And you saw that in this game. And that's really how you're going to beat this Miami team. It has to be on the defensive end because you cannot leave them open for 3-point shots. You've got guys like Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, just completely decimating you on defense because you're leaving them wide open for shots. But you saw something different in this game. And you win game 5, this is a completely different series. All of a sudden, you're down 3-1 right now. You make it 3-2. Celtics have come back from 3-2.
Confidence is crazy.
And they need to do that because all of a sudden, you know, you win in your own building and teams got to bring it, fans got to bring it for game 5 on Thursday.
Everything.
You have to bring that energy and that heat.
Everything.
Bring it all or nothing. And I want to see the same effort,
it's win or go home.
Exactly.
And come out more scrappy. Come out crawling and scrawling and scratching and doing with the things you got to do, you know? And that's why I gave my unsung hero to Grant Williams, because he was taking the body blows, but then he was delivering them too. That block on Jimmy Butler, and he didn't say shit. He didn't even say anything afterwards.
I think he looked over at him, and that was about it.
That's all he needed to do.
And I love that. Let your game do the talking, man, because you're good enough to do stuff like that. You don't need to trash talk and get under the skin of Jimmy Butler. You don't need to do that. You're good enough. And it gets frustrating. This is one of the things that I will pick on Joe about is Grant Williams should have been a major part of this rotation for a good chunk of this playoff run, but especially in this series because there's going to be moments where you can't have Rob out there or you can't have Al out
Good
there
point.
and you need to fold Grant into there, and you could see why. Because there's going to be moments where if you're running Rob at the 5, you don't want to run Horford at the 4 because they're going to get destroyed in a mismatch. If it's Jimmy, he's got the speed, you know. You need to be able to turn to a guy who's got some muscle on him, who can take a body down low, who can spread the floor still. It's why you got Grant. It's why that guy's probably going to get paid this summer still.
I
And I'm
wouldn't
hoping
even
it's
mind.
here.
I wouldn't even mind if they mix in a little Blake. Like, God forbid,
Maybe.
hear me out. God forbid Grant gets into some type of crazy early foul trouble, and you want to keep I'm glad you did that, and you keep the Hail Marys coming, and you want to keep that same type of mindset for your rotation. You got to insert Blake. Why? Because Blake, believe it or not, he can stretch the floor. Believe it or not, he's gonna out hustle. He might not have the athleticism to jump. He can, but he has the mindset to hustle.
He'll take a charge too.
The grit,
big.
man. The
Yeah.
grit. And so if and that could be like an emergency type of thing situation if there's some type of foul because Grant has to play 30 plus minutes for him. You see what you get. You get spacing on the court. I don't care what people says. Grant has a decent high ass IQ enough for me to play basketball.
He's one of the highest IQ players on the team.
I didn't know
He
that.
is.
See, I was making
no,
that up,
in my opinion, no. In terms of basketball IQ, I mean, I think he's normally just like a smart guy.
Yeah.
But I think academically he did well. But I'm talking about basketball IQ.
It's there.
This team does not have a lot of that, but Grant is one of those guys. Brogdon is also one of those guys, and Derek White is also one of those guys.
Correct.
Al Horford, I clump in that as well. Like those are guys who are seasoned and experienced. For Grant especially, is just there's not often, up until this season really, there were not often times where I would say that Grant made a bad play or did a bad read. He's had some lapses where he's tried to go hero ball. Jaylen Brown said as much, not specifically hero ball, but making the right read, making the right play, playing within your role. And I think that's what we saw from Grant in this game.
He said that, and he said that Marcus Smart was the one that was in his ear the whole time. You know, listen, you're a great player, but you ain't got to do all this. I'm paraphrasing it. You don't got to do this. You just got to play the right role, make the right read. I was wondering why the Hall of Fame pass was up and Brown was throwing it across court and between the legs behind the back off the rooftop and getting the ball to. It made sense, and it's because somebody finally came down and said something to him. I think the issue with our team was lack of communication, number one.
Give yourself the ding. I can't do it from here.
Lack of communication, like people not willing to speak up. Well, I'm sorry for the Celtic fans, us out there, that it took going down 0-3 for that to happen. I wish the ass whipping would have happened the first game. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, probably.
But
yeah,
no,
I agree.
they want to play hard in the first game because they at home. They want to play hard in the second game, and then you get brain farts from coaching and players just doing one little slight thing off, and we lose those games, 7 points, 6 points. We lose those games, right? And then you get your tail whipped in Miami, and I wish that would have happened earlier. I do, but it didn't.
Yeah, and this is kind of where going into the playoffs, I was hoping that one of these series would kind of awaken that fire, right? I thought that happened a little bit in the Hawks series. It definitely happened in the Philly series. You know, you're down 3-2, having to go into an opposing building and win a game 6 in order to keep your season alive. I thought that those moments would kind of help. And even looking back to game 7 against Philly, where they won by a lot, it was a lot of Jason Tatum having a historic performance, the most points in game 7 in NBA history. So that was amazing, incredible performance. But I still think that game 4 was the most well-rounded team performance we've seen in the playoffs. I mean, they held them to 100 points. It's only, I think that's happened in now 5 games, I think, for the playoffs for the Celtics. So, like, you win games when you hold opponents to under 100, and it's not been something that's frequently happened this year. You don't need to get into a shootout against a team that's got guys like Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson coming in and banging threes. So continue to play this brand of basketball, and this is going to be going the whole run. This is going to go 7 games. You just need to play this brand of basketball because guess what? this is actually the brand of basketball that the Celtics should play. This is what won them the East last year, by playing physical, by playing hard defense, by getting out and playing in transition with pace. You've got the talent, you've got the ability, and I think Joe's starting to realize it, and the players are starting to realize it too. Get him back to that.
I think Charles Barkley mentioned something last night on the national broadcast during halftime. And Shaquille O'Neal, like they co-signed each other probably for the first time in I don't know how many years. And Charles Barkley talked about the mental aspect and having the mental ability because certain games you can't win off of talent. And there's not a team in this and the rest of these playoffs, not even the Denver Nuggets, that are more talented than the Boston Celtics. I'm sorry, the talent from the Celtics is deep. Now, there's some really talented players on them Denver Nuggets, and it starts with a big man, and they got some other key pieces. But when you go to the depth of that team, I think the Celtics still win in the talent competition. Well, guess what? Talent ain't gonna win you these games that come out there with the mental toughness. And I'm sorry, Jimmy Butler is one of those last of the old school type mentality type of players, and he came out of that era. Hell, he played in Chicago. He was under Thibodeau, and he just got the mentality. And that right there is why his team, A, because they communicate, B, they trust him, and that's why his team is playing the way that they are. So it's not that they're the better team. They are playing better, but they're not the better team overall based off of talent. It's still the Celtics. Well, I tell you what, the Celtics, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you lack that mental toughness, that grit, the grind, the gritty, that's why we keep losing these games. Because think about it, man. If Jason Tatum said F everything and just took the ball in the fourth quarter, we win both of them first two games. Like, we win them. Hands down. Why? Because that's his mentality. That's the Mamba. Like, that's why everybody liked Kobe Bryant, right? He was either going to win you the game or possibly lose you the game, but he put the team on his back. And I know, I'm not saying the whole game has to be like that, but there's a certain point in that game where your best player got to be the best player.
You saw Tatum actually ask a couple of times. There was a certain play. I don't think it might have been the block by Grant on Jimmy Butler, because that happened late in the game. But there was a possession where Grant got the ball, and immediately Tatum is clapping like, give me the ball, to push it up to get it past half court in order to avoid them, running into a potential 8-second violation.
That, and getting their defense set too.
Exactly. Like, he's trying to be like, let's get the ball up the floor.
Stop slowing the game down, bro.
Yeah. And he got more vocal too. I think Tatum was actually more vocal, getting into guys, communicating, gesturing, pointing. Like, that's what you need him to do. That's what you need the leaders on this team to do. And I think I'm hoping, really, really hoping that they woke up some part of themselves, because this team manages to play well when their backs are against the wall. I thought they would do it in game 3, but now it's like the margin of error is 0. You got nothing. You got this much to work with. So every single possession, every single time you slack off on defense, like you're tempting fate. And I think now at this point in time, Celtics have a chance to swing the momentum here. You win game 5. This is a completely different series. Miami starts to have more than an inkling of doubt, seeping into the back of their minds. Like, are we seriously going to close this out or what? You're already starting to see it with some of their fans after losing that game.
What did Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart say?
We want to go back to Miami?
No, they said, don't let us win this game. Like,
well, going in, but Jaylen said after the game, he says, we want to go back to Miami.
Oh, look, and I love it, yo. Like, finally, the players are giving us life.
Pride. They need pride. They need fire.
What happened to the Celtic pride? Yeah, like, bump that unfinished business. It ain't unfinished until you get to the championship. Then you wear that shirt. You can't.
Amen to that.
You can't get pre the championship and talk about unfinished business. You got to get back there.
Earn it.
I don't know, man. That Celtic pride, maybe that needs to come out, bro. Celtic strong, Boston strong, whatever they need to do. They need to be some type of different synergy, energy in the TD Garden on tomorrow night, bro. Because I can tell you right now, like, the The Celtics, I said 7 games.
You did say 7 games. I said my heart said 5, but my brain
6?
was saying 6.
And
6 is out of the question now. You said 7, and
games.
I'm sure this is not the way that we imagined it would be
Not
in
at
terms
all.
of 7s.
Not at all.
So,
But as long as you get to 7 games, it doesn't matter how you get there. So
Exactly.
7 games, and guess
Just
where it will be if it's
every
7
single
games.
game, every single game,
One at a time.
one at a time. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for joining this episode of Vitamin C's, proud part of the CLNS Media Network. And for better or worse, we will see you next time. Cheers.
Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook.